because Fiona is in the dark.
And I'm Fiona Kemijisha, your co-host. Honestly, what kind of intro is this, Robert? What kind of
Fiona,
intro is this?
you should pay for your car. Why are you being mean during Christmas? You pay these bills, my dear girl. Is it?
You
Fiona,
people.
if you work through your calculations, you'll find that all you pay in your car, you could buy a solar panel for your lights. That's just the lights. Don't worry. Sorry, Fiona,
I
over
don't
to you.
know what kind. I don't know
This
what
is
kind of start or conversation this is, you people.
this is
What's
the new
this?
breed. This is the new breed podcast where we do podcasts in the dark.
We do what it takes, okay? We do what it takes, and we are here now.
Where do they find us, Fiona?
You can find us on YouTube at the New Breed Podcast UG. You can also find us on Instagram, on my Instagram at Fiona Kemi. You can find us on X at Arcab Shenga and on TikTok at Arcab Shenga. Welcome to actually the last episode of the year of the New Breed Podcast. We're doing things a little bit differently today. Robert and I are here as always, and we have two guests with us, but unlike the usual format, this is more of a conversation amongst the four of us. And maybe let me let Robert, give you the in on the guest that we have today.
So first of all, if you're listening to my spaces, I want to let you know that if you are watching the video, you would see that on the screen, Fiona is sitting in complete, utter darkness. The only thing we can, luckily enough, her skin complexion is lighter, so we can see parts of her. But actually, and that says a lot about the country we're discussing. But my guests,
You even made
now she's got
off.
completely, she's turned off
And
the
the
light.
laptop is on.
Okay, good.
This is my power.
So first of all, one of our guys who's been behind helping us with the new breed, Sam Muhindo. Today, he's decided to step forward and get out of the background, and we talk about how the new breed has gone, what it is we were trying to do, did we achieve it? We'll figure that out later. But what I'm really, really, really excited about today is Janice and Nkajja. So, so
We're actually
listen,
just a couple of villagers, actually.
I know, and I'm going to tell you why I'm really excited about Janice, because Janice took the Ugandan video terrain by storm. I think it was last year, with some really incisive analysis about the state of affairs in Uganda, particularly the economy. And every single person who watched those videos and that I spoke to said, this young lady is not just a talking head. She's thought through everything, every choice word that she used to speak out. And secretly, I was harboring this dream and ambition to host her for an interview. And voila, ladies and gentlemen, Janice. Janice, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Well, you introduced yourself with a much bigger bang than I have done. I'm only just reflecting. Thank you very much. So after I do that superstar intro of, you see, just so you know, and don't let anybody ever take this away from you, you have articulated the aspirations, the thought processes, the ambitions, the wishes, the dreams of your generation so well. Please take your flowers and your place in society.
Thank you.
Fiona, I hand over Janice to you.
Okay, and just so, anybody who knows Robert and who knows me knows we don't just be flattering people. Actually,
No.
we mean it. Yeah, no, you're an exceptional young lady. Also, you're probably the youngest person we've had on so far, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
we love it, diversity. And actually, we thought that we'll start this conversation with, and I read an article of yours that you wrote for Let's Talk Africa, and I thought it captured the essence of pretty much everything we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to read a bit of that article as we dive into the conversation. The article is called "The Year the Presidency Became a Group Project." And I quote, "If you actually wanted to see power change hands, common sense."
Fiona, first stop.
Yeah.
I have to ask a basic question. What is
Go
a
ahead.
group project? You know, for us, we are 1970 something. Our MTN numbers are 0772. That tells you. So explain to us. First, before we dive in, I just want to hear from Jen. What is a group project?
A group project is essentially a collective effort. In that we have so many people doing the same exact thing. That could be both a good thing and a bad thing, depending on the lens you're looking at it. The normal saying of too many cooks spoil the soup. I think that was the lens from which I was looking at it, but I wanted to put it in a more satirical, less I don't know, when you read the article, you'll understand why I called it a group project. But essentially, that was the thought process around it. It was depicting Uganda's when everyone was picking nomination forms, and I was like, "Is this now becoming a group project?" Anyway, not to preempt what Fiona wants to ask, but that was the thought process behind the title. And I'm super excited that people actually read my writing. I didn't think people read my writing. Thank God.
You'll be there.
Okay. Actually, we'll leave a link to this article, probably on X. It's a really good article. Yeah, I'll leave it. All right. So if you actually wanted to see power change hands, common sense requires backing the strongest likely competitor, someone who has machinery and voter field operation to actually cross the finish line. But no, in 2026, we appear to be running a political version of a middle school science fair. Everyone has a table, everyone gets to make their presentation, and no one actually supplants the headmaster. This is our tragic satire of the times. The establishment doesn't need to work to keep. Their opposition labors for them. The vote for change split as wide as a group project where everyone submits a wholly different final paper. Now, I first of all, you have quite the way with words. You have quite the way with words. I kept on stopping to just smile and be like, how did you put that together? And so interestingly, for me, one of the things that came up was something that we've heard a lot of our guests saying on the show. I feel like this was a mirror of something we've had people saying. And I think Robert will agree, regardless of political party affiliation, there seems to be like a consensus that policies, sure, we write them nicely, they're laid out, there they are. But strategy and implementation, that's a whole different ball game. That's not something that we are doing very well at. It's not something that we seem to have been very good at for a long time. So let's talk about that, like the reality of what it takes to transition power, right? And so what you're telling us in the article is that, we have all of this passion, that desire for change, but the actual strategy for change is not really there. So what do you think that we are underestimating about what it takes to actually transition power?
Okay. What are we underestimating? I think from the base level, what we're underestimating is the person who is in power currently. I don't think people understand how deep rooted the national resistance movement and the current status quo of leadership works in Uganda. I think this was a joke one of my friends and I were joking about how local government doubles civil servants, in that we have more members, more local government committees than civil servants combined. Meaning that the current establishment has created a system of monopoly whereby it stretches into so many areas of influence, to the extent that when we come to how we're going to dismantle this establishment, we just look at the head of state and not the entire structure as a whole, right? To things like the SFC and very specific institutions that have been placed just to protect the establishment. It has gone into the judiciary, it has gone into the legislature. And so when you're looking at how we're actually going to change power, we fail to understand how deep the problem is. And that is the basic problem that we have. And so when I was writing that article, I was thinking about the opposition. That was what was at the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I deeply appreciate that we have people who are always trying to keep the government accountable. But at the same time, within the opposition, there's so much heading up, so many disagreements, so many conflicts. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if we all agree that the current government is not actually sustainable, doing what it's supposed to do, why then, as an opposition, are you so conflicted within each other, right? I don't know. I think it's also the other thing I've been thinking about. Some of my friends talk about, like, Uganda's opposition would have made a coalition long time ago if they really, 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 really wanted to change the current government. They would come as one and have one political party, not necessarily a political party, but have one presidential candidate, and they decide to back that individual. One would say, Janice, what we are state, we want to have so many people run for government, and it's okay to have so many candidates, which is okay. But it's been 45 years and this game has been done over and over again. Don't you believe that there needs to be change in strategy as the opposition, as people running for elections? And these are all things that make me question whether or not Ugandans really do want change, or are they just participating in elections, in governance, and they're just going along and hoping some miraculous thing will happen. I think that was the thought process when I was writing that particular piece.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Robert. I want to ask Sam a question deriving from the issue that Janice is pointing out. For the first time on this podcast, but also generally, you listen to someone who is speaking about the political situation and doesn't have a vested interest in their status in it. Now, I want to be the cynic. Is it because the opposition as we know it and as it is structured today in Uganda actually is invested in the status quo not changing? Because then as the opposition, they do have a status and something to do that they don't want to let go of. So actually, they're not as invested in the change that they talk about the way ordinary people might want to change. But for them to be opposition is in itself a role and a position in society they don't want to change. Because to change, to bring the change that everyone is yearning for, means they have to stop being in opposition. Either they take government or they stop being relevant. Now, I'm being completely and utterly cynical right there, and saying that actually, if I follow what Janice is saying, it is that for me, my conclusion is that no. It's not that these guys have the wrong strategy, they have the right strategy. They want to be the opposition. That's the role they want to play. They don't want to be the government. They don't want to deal with the problems of government. They just want to be in the position to call out the government. Am I right to be cynical? Sam?
Thank you, Robert. You are wrong on all grounds, actually, because one, the face of the opposition has changed almost every after 10 years.
Yeah.
We could, for example, look at Dr. Kizza Besigye. It's only him whose face almost lasted 20 years as the face of the opposition. But even then, we had new voices come up. We have a musician turned politician, now turned leader of the opposition. We have a former military commander, now a head of a political party, and also in the campaigns vying for presidents.
Yeah.
Now, I would tie actually my interests into what General Montu says.
Mm.
General Montu has most times Yusuf Serunkuma writes that he's the president that Uganda will never have because
Mm.
he's quite so good, but he also represents that the ideals that maybe Yusuf tends to think Ugandans wouldn't desire to have.
Yeah.
But continuously, General Montu has told us it's not enough, for example, to say that the opposition should dislodge Museveni.
Mm.
Okay, what happens if the opposition dislodges the incumbent and the
Mm.
opposition cannot sustain the new realms of power that they have gotten? So
Mm.
does it then become the case of, I would maybe in the certain way I would confirm your cynicism that maybe in the fear of facilitating a transition, that
Mm.
maybe we may descend into a Sudan because there were no structures in place to facilitate a transition. Most people then believe the opposition is there to just maintain the status quo, get what they can part away with, and then go away. While on the other hand, but there is also that feeble voice of the one gentleman from the ANT, not as vibrant, not as lovely and loving by the media, for example. But he's a lone voice and he's saying, guys, okay, well, we are trying to upstage things, but we must be ready to put the structures in place. We must build towards this transition that we desire. As Janice explicitly mentions, for 40 years, so many things have been put in place to sustain the establishment. So, what makes you feel that today, if you got the realms of this power that you so much desire, that you can sustain it? So, it means it is so important that even when we desire, some members of the opposition should come and sweet talk sympathizers of the NRM like you to
Mm.
help them understand how did you build entities like the New Vision at its best. After building entities like the New Vision, why aren't you actively involved with us in the opposition, for example? Because if you've learned how to build and successfully build a profitable entity like the Vision, employing over 1,000 people, surely we would also need your skill set in mobilization. I don't want to mention the Kabaka birthday run. So surely, I think what the opposition is short on is the creativity of convincing Kabushenga to come and join them. That, okay, Kabushenga may be a sympathizer of the NRM, but this Kabushenga still has the expertise of leading individuals.
You
Because
know,
I
I'll
would,
tell you the most interesting remark. Every time they talk either to me or about me, it is to
yes,
try and shame me and remind me how I was a spin doctor. And I just keep quiet and I look at them and just say, okay, fair enough. God help you where you are going.
yes, it's actually
But
good because why I speak to this, I speak of the experience. The
mm,
executive director of KANU, the
mm,
Independence Political Party of Kenya,
yeah,
is a gentleman called Edwin. He should be 36.
yeah,
He's an advocate of the High Court, and he is a full-time executive director of KANU. When you discuss with Edwin, he is he speaks of the political party. He is speaking with an entrepreneur mind.
yeah.
This is how we raise money. This is what we do. This is how we go to the young people, and this is how we appeal to the historicals. That even when Gideon Moy is a larger than life entity, for example, he is not bigger than Kanu the party. He still knows that he owes Kanu his position, his legacy, and his investment to ensure his sustainability. One would easily mention, but Kanu has been out of government, and that's what cynics like me mentioned to them. And they also told us we are only out of government for the first time since Moi left. So I think progressively we then have to understand that
Well,
the whole
Ruto,
Ruto is class
back
of
to what
91.
Janice was saying.
Yes.
I wanted to bring an issue to you, Fiona, and then you can take it up with Janice as well. one of the things that struck me during the conversations about with the new breed of political leaders is that, strangely, regardless of their political affiliation, they seemed all to agree that the current establishment as it isn't working for the future of the young people. I don't know if I was wrong, but I got that sense. And in fact, I think in most cases, once we took away the need to attack personalities, there seemed to be a bit of consensus on some of the issues. And maybe that's an area we could tackle, that maybe the color differences or the party differences are artificial, but the political realities of what they're dealing with are the same. I don't know what, between you and Janice, what you think.
Let me let Janice get in there on that point before I even say anything.
I had the privilege to read the manifestos by, I think, 4 political parties. And as I was reading through them and making the content for my TikTok, I realized that across all the manifestos, they address the same exact thing: unemployment, infrastructure, healthcare. So they do agree that they are even the current establishment talks about the same exact thing. The only difference with the NRM manifesto was that they had more stats, more facts, more analysis, because they've been in power for a very long time and they understand the issues more in depth in comparison. And I think this is something that I was really struggling with, was that when I was reading the NRM manifesto, I was like, oh my God, this is the government we actually need. Why doesn't it actually reflect when people write these things? Because I was reading this manifesto and I was like, this is incredible in comparison to all the others. It was more in depth, more researched. It hits the root of the problem. But then we have this issue of, I think this is a question you asked Mr. Kabushenga at the beginning. We make the policy, but the policy never actually works when it comes to implementation. So there is a consensus that the problems we are facing are all the same across all political parties. And in fact, we do have the mechanisms and the authority to make sure that those particular issues are being addressed. The how in itself is the basic problem. Another joke my friends and I are making is that we wouldn't mind a dictator if Ugandans were not living in poverty and unable to meet daily needs. And they're always juxtaposing with Kagame and comparing the rate at which Rwanda is growing very, very fast. But each time you talk to a Rwandan to talk about their president, they don't want to talk about their president. But we are always comparing Rwanda to Uganda, and so essentially that's the thing we are contending on. The issue of that, hypothetically, we decide to remain with the current government. Would we tolerate the current government if livelihoods were made better, right? And so we always make this juxtaposition and realize that at the end of the day, if a certain group of people have the resources, the capacity to make the change that we see, but don't do it, that's when we then contend to have maybe a change in government. But definitely the consensus is the same. It's essentially the same issues, but it all goes down to will they and how will they tackle these issues.
Yeah, it always goes back to the how. And I guess speaking of the how, what it makes me think of is I don't know if this is what I mean. Thank goodness that a Gen Z who is like real Gen Z young can now also speak on this program, because at least I can speak for millennials. I know that a lot of millennials just don't vote.
What is my generation? Me and Sam, what are we?
Robert, I'm not in your generation. Your generation are boomers.
Sam would like to dissociate himself from your submission. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people of my generation just don't vote. And for some people, it's an expression of protest. But I found that for a lot of people, it's simply apathy. There's an exhaustion with this event that we're talking about. There's like an exhaustion of like, it's never going to change, whatever, my vote doesn't matter. And yet every time someone tells me that, I wonder if actually I don't wonder, I usually tell them, but don't you think also when you don't vote, you are strengthening the very systems that you are saying you're tired of? So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I am curious to hear what you guys think about that, because I take it very personally, this thing of voting. Even if things have not changed for 100 years, Fiona will go and vote. Like, I have never not voted.
But so I'm talking as someone who lived through Idi Amin, who lived through the chaos of 79 to 81, the civil war of 81 to 86. And I cannot describe for you the feeling of exercising what felt really like my not just constitutional right, but my franchise, to be able to get a ballot paper and exercise my choice by picking. And the feeling that exercise was a true expression of my political wish, and that at the end of that political wish, at that time, it will be reflected. But what I feel is missing, or has been missing, that has led to where people have become cynical, and it's linked to, I am amazed and completely blown away by the fact that Janice read the manifestos. That is seriousness on a grand scale. You know, by the time you set aside time to, I mean, there are other better things to read, but you decided. You see, what happened with our generation, particularly people like me and my peers, was that every single day of every year leading up to the next election, we were involved in real concrete debate about public affairs. And the debates were genuine. The engagements on either side were with very qualitative people who knew their stuff and who understood exactly what positions they were taking and why. Now, unfortunately, Fiona, for your generation, you come into what I'm calling adulthood or political maturity at a time when politics has been reduced to slogans, to, comedians, entertain. It's like a circus, basically. And even what passes for pundits or commentators or analysts are usually people trying to find a career. And so you get all sorts of people who, even in an LC1 meeting, would not be allowed to talk. Some of them won't even be allowed to attend. Are then entertained on media platforms because they cause traffic. And you've got eyeballs. So you end up with essentially a vulgarization of the political process. And I've always looked for an opportunity to use both words in one sentence, which ends up with a bastardization of. So first, it starts with the vulgarization, which ends with a bastardization, and you end up with this situation where nobody provides leadership. But also, I feel that the ruling party and the leader of the ruling party have become impatient with debates. And simply any kind of debate, a question, becomes a question about loyalty rather than intellectual engagement. And that's why one of the things I noticed when we were interviewing a lot of the young people from the NRM for this new breed is many of them were very conscious to not depart from the party line. Now, that's extremely dangerous because it's typical of monolithic parties. And that means that you're engaged in groupthink, There is no intellectual renewal of,
Mhm.
of the resources and imaginative thinking. So what has ended up happening is that instead of a Janice being recruited to be a cadre in the NRM, she has been exiled to TikTok. And so since she's in exile, TikTok, anything she says can then be dismissed as non-consequential because it is inconvenient, not because she's not right, because it is inconvenient. And so, because of that lack of engagement prior to the election, everybody starts wondering. I mean, it's like a music concert. You will not go to a music concert. I saw you interviewing Maurice Kiria. You will not go to a music concert, Kemi, if you don't know the songs of the artist. So if I can't recognize 3/4 of the airbrushed photos that are on the streets of Kampala, why should I wake up in the morning to go and lose sleep in a line, then I come back at 2 hungry? Doesn't make any, I have no stake. So what the question I want to put to having said that, the question I would like to put to Sam, as someone involved in political engagement and political discussion, is where and how have we failed the Janice generation, the millennials, in terms of getting them involved and engaged and to be part of a meaningful and serious political debate, discourse about the country, one in which there is a genuine engagement to understand what these guys represent and what their aspirations are.
Thank you very much, Robert. I have to make it clear again that I am part of Fiona and Janice's generation.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
say Janice. Janice is not in our generation, my friend.
So, let me to
You and I
to
are leaving the
this.
youth bracket.
So my reading of how we have been failed is quite different. Is that one?
We can see you, Sam. Just talk. Ignore the guy.
Yes, yes. So so what I wanted to mention, one is Janice should not feel, as you try to describe it, exiled to TikTok, because TikTok is the fastest growing engagement platform in this country. I think we now have about 10, according to UCC, that about 10 million active users. That's quite a big number.
Yeah.
That's quite a big number.
That's a quarter of the country.
A quarter of the country. And why I interest myself in the role that TikTok is playing is that TikTok is playing the role that Facebook played in 2016. After 2016, and this is what happens, because now the internet was being mainstreamed. Allow me use my background in communication and journalism. because the internet was being mainstreamed and almost every person now had a smartphone in their hands, we were accused of being abusive on Facebook. And so what happens with power comes also the ability to withdraw some privileges.
Yeah.
And that is how Facebook was shut away in 2020. Its fate was sealed, and to this day we have never. But as creative as the mind can be, continuously the human mind realized that, oh, by the way, guys, we can still communicate, we can still exchange ideas, and actually TikTok is easier to use. Each one can become a show host.
Correct. Each one is.
Yes, I will sit wherever I am, press the live button, and go live.
Yeah.
TikTok single-handedly contributed, because I was in the newsroom at the time, to the changes that you're celebrating today at Entebbe International Airport.
Yeah.
The gentleman that led the revolution is a coffee barrister somewhere in the UAE called Barista Timo.
Yeah.
He was not speaking English.
Yes.
He was speaking Luganda.
Yes.
He would host these young ladies that you were praising, young ladies and men that you were praising the other day for supporting the under 17 team at the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
And he was telling them, guys, tell us how you're feeling. Who does what? This one does this. Before you know it, these conversations were mainstreamed into our major communication platforms. And what am I trying to mean? Whereas we were denied the opportunity to mobilize maybe through Facebook,
Yeah.
TikTok gave us another hand to mobilize. But
Yeah.
what is important for me, however, is the place and how do the Ugandan elite regard TikTok, for example?
Mm.
Like, what happens if how do Janice's parents interpret her content coming out of TikTok into a WhatsApp group? To me, that is important because it means if the elite, because Janice, by all this, even if she's not well managed, at least she can pass for an elite.
Oh,
If
she is
Janice,
quite good. I mean,
yes,
even
Janice,
just by the way she thinks.
yes,
She's not a muntu wawansi.
not a mutu wa wasi. So it means if many more people like her can go to TikTok and tell our people, because what Janice did was important. What I loved the most, how I got to follow her content, was when she broke down the alternative proposals of the leader of opposition last year.
Yep.
It was a big book. You've heard that joke about UN reports, but
Mhm.
UN reports are never read because they are so big.
Yeah.
The alternative policies were so big, people could not understand them. And here comes Janice, no affiliation to the NUP, sits down, reads this document, and breaks down for Muntu Wawansi.
Yeah.
What we need today now are
Yeah.
elites that are fluent both in English and in our local languages. Because what TikTok gives is what Facebook denied. Facebook was long format, text and writing.
Yeah.
TikTok interaction. So it means we will have an appreciation of what Robert does. Now, what is important here is, can our elites recognize that if a young lady called Mirembe Beddings can sell her items, also us who are mobilizing and raising financing for political work and everything can still go to TikTok, request for money for mobilization, get it, and go and do the work.
Okay, so can we understand from Janice,
Yes.
how has your engagement, from what you know, whatever it is you know, how has it created a certain civic foundation, a certain engagement that you feel you may feel gives a certain outlet and a certain connection, if I may put it that way, with the political process?
I think I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to first bounce off what Mr. Muhindo was saying. He said, how do my parents feel about my videos bouncing off TikTok into a WhatsApp group chat? So funny story is that I had first blocked my parents on TikTok or like any other social media. My dad is very invested in my life, so he follows me on X. So I was like, okay, keep there. Until someone got my video off TikTok and put it on X. That's when he realized I have a TikTok account. And then he tries to look for me, but I blocked him. For various reasons. One, I didn't want to give my parents a panic attack because the things I was talking about are things that could potentially get you in trouble. And so to ease it on them so that they're not actively always under pressure. But unfortunately that did not work because videos kept moving into WhatsApp group chats and, isn't this your daughter on TikTok? And so just that as a fun fact. But I think one thing
about a fun fact.
Very.
Anyway, I have been blocked by 3 people I know very well, so please go ahead.
But it has given me, first of all, it has given me an understanding that, because one constant comment that I get is that oluzungu lungi 12 video Uganda, which is something that I deeply want to do, but unfortunately, for example, certain things, unfortunately, I'm part of the generation that does not know how to describe certain things in Luganda. For example, I don't know what a constitution is called in Luganda. But very technical words.
Do you know what a bill is called?
A bill, exactly. A bill, something as basic as a bill in
bago. No, go ahead. Don't worry about the language.
And it's not that I don't speak Luganda and Wogera, Burunji nyo, but there are certain things that need, when they're in English, I cannot directly translate them, because I have tried to do a few videos in Uganda. It has been so strenuous on me, and I don't feel like I'm really pushing what I want to say because of the language in itself. I think that's a very constant comment that I keep receiving. There are other conversations around people who say, oh, I did not know this. Oh, that's rather interesting. So when I engage with the comments, I realize there's so many things varying from misinformation. I made a video on imperialism, and someone said misinformation. So like there's so many people who don't know things or are misinformed about things, and when you try to bring it up to them, they push back. I think one of the most traumatic experiences I've received from being a TikToker is that I didn't like being called a TikToker, because unfortunately it's not cool to be a TikToker. When you say you're a TikToker, people think you're either dancing or twerking, or essentially what Mr. Muhindo was trying to say. How do we change the perspective of what TikTok is for most people, from a place of entertainment to a place of academia and intellectual discussions? That almost never happens. And I think for the past couple of months, I was really struggling. I was telling people, don't call me a TikToker. Please use any other word, but don't call me a TikToker. It is, for me, particularly, I didn't find it a safe space at the beginning, because unfortunately, when you're new at it, you get constantly harassed by people, insulted in case someone has an opposing opinion from yours. And I had never experienced something like that at a very high rate, because you'll have over 500 comments like demeaning your personality and who you are. I guess that was something very because my parents have protected me from social media for a very long time. But like now that that's why in fact I blocked them, because I was like, hey, good.
Liberation
finally kicked in. But I found it as a very interesting place to share, because I'm currently academically pursuing international law, and so I'm constantly juxtaposing my academia to current day issues, and I'm trying to always engage people, because, for example, if you're Miss Fiona, I stalked you a bit and I realized you did law school. There's so much jargon in law school, and so if you don't know what the word a memorandum means, or if you don't know what a word like preamble means, it is so difficult to have an average person understand this content if you don't break it down in the simplest way possible. So that's what I set out to do, and I'm glad I'm not wasting time because it's something that my parents at the beginning, my parents were very, please stop, we want you alive. I'm like, I'm not attacking anyone, I'm just saying things as they are. But I've learned the hardest way that, unfortunately, that as much as you may think that you're just saying things as the way they are, people don't want you to say those things. And people went as far as contacting my parents on phone calls and threaten them, trying to tell them to tell me to stop. So there needs to be a more space whereby we can have this dialogue without it necessarily being hostile. And
Janice, maybe I want to just chip in. What were the threats out of concern for your safety, or were the threats out of the fact that you are threatening someone's bread?
I remember one very particular video. this one is solidified on my mind. When our CDF said something along the lines of, Uganda will never have a president who is not from the military, something like that. And so all I did was to reread that tweet and then explain the implications of what that tweet means, right? On a very surface level. And I think that particular video got strangers calling my parents, telling them to tell me to stop talking about the first family if I want to be safe. That was my very first interaction with because I've always heard of political activists saying, oh, we were called and threatened, oh, etc, but had never been actively professed to me. So they first reached out to my parents because by that time my phone number was not registered in my name, so you couldn't find me. But my parents it wasn't out of concern for my safety. It was rather to tell me that if I didn't stop what I was doing, I would face dire consequences. Thank God I'm stubborn and I don't believe in threats. I didn't stop. I continued. I guess I just reimagined how to do it. I realized that, okay, how do I emulsify this situation and pitch onto the different issues in the country? And I'm glad they did that, because then I was able to tap into constitution amendments, to economics, to conversations that people don't normally have. So that was my experience from being a TikToker.
I mean, I love that you, in your videos, is the word mainstream, but you mainstream, like you make it easy for just regular people who haven't studied law, who haven't studied anything fancy, to start to understand the implications of a tweet like that, or to start to understand what a certain policy or whatever means. I think what's coming to mind, because, you're young, you're doing this on TikTok, on social media. I'm now thinking about, what it means for youth to actually engage, like to engage actively in the civic space. And whether, because even in the course of conversations with the different leaders that we've hosted, some are more of the view that young people don't have the opportunities to engage, the table is not there, and, we are not part of the table, and all of these things. And then other people, I think, are more like, maybe it's more of we are fragmented as opposed to suppressed, like there's that fragmentation versus suppression. And actually, I want to first ask Robert part A of the question, because I think one of the things that your generation did well, Robert, was to organize, and there's not much that can be achieved without organizing. So what would you, what do you see in our, what would you advise, you're in a position of advice, how can we be more mature in our political organization, as opposed to, the fragmentation, because actually there's just a lot of fragmentation. Suppression is also there, but I feel in my observation that the fragmentation may be even more so. So advise us.
First of all, I think you have a fantastic role model in people like Janice.
True.
And in people like Sam, and who are already and in different ways. So first of all, you have someone like Janice, who at her age is going to set aside time to read a manifesto, to read the leader of opposition's response. I mean, even if you paid me dimes now, why would I expend my MB's mental bandwidth to an exercise like that? But if your generation wants to be taken seriously, then you should start by taking yourselves seriously. Engage with public affairs in a serious manner. If you're going to talk about a policy, start by knowing it. Don't talk generalities and shout slogans and get emotional. You need to know what the issue is and how to then decide what your position is. Now, we learned that from people who are older than us, that we had no right to engage in public discussion unless we had knowledge of the issue. So the second power of example that Janice brings to young people, and I hope that even the people were hosted. Yeah, I remember there was one of those shows, which shall not be named, where both me and you walked off feeling, what has just happened? What is this? If these are the people, forget their particulars. If these are the people who are aspiring for public office, this country is in big trouble. You cannot be aspiring for public office and you're a muddled up thinker. It's just simply unconscionable. You will understand that, Janice. It is just unforgivable. Number two, when you have a deep knowledge of a subject, it is easier for you to simplify it. And when we all imagine why Janice is able to make these things seem so simple and accessible, it's because she has processed it. And now, because she understands it, the next thing your generation needs to learn is how to delivery of articulation of issues. But, and then of course, the other thing which Sam then brings to the table is you need to bring your professionalism to public affairs. A lot of people in your generation bring anger and emotions to public affairs. We're tired of this government. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. You can be as tired as you want. But the only way you're going to be practical. I'll never forget something a very, very senior leader in this country told me. He said, never, I can't remember what the issue was and I lost my cool. And he said, please never bring emotions to public affairs. You must keep a cool head, assess the situation, and act rationally at all times. I don't have to like Janice. I don't have to like Kemi. I don't have to like Sam at all for us to collaborate around an issue that is important for all of us. When we are done, we can go back to hating each other, and that's fine. But on the issue of our common human existence, we agreed that, for instance, we should not be putting plastic in Lake Victoria. That has nothing to do with whether I like you or not. So, but the other thing I wanted to point out is the difference between our generation and your generation is a thing that your generation doesn't like to hear a lot. You guys grew up on instant gratification. Everything you wanted, your parents gave it to you because we, as your parents, had gone through so much, we did not want our children to experience the kinds of things that we went through. So you arrive into adulthood and public life with the expectation that when you throw a tantrum, you will get exactly what you want. The world doesn't work like that. You throw a tantrum, you'll get a slap. So the next question is, as guys, you are with your mother, she doesn't know where the next meal is coming from, and you throw a tantrum. It is 6 p.m. in Amin's time, curfew time. She will give you a slap to shut up. You're making noise. You're endangering everyone else. You sleep on a hungry stomach until morning when she can now resolve the issues. So I think that one of the tough love that we need to start showing you guys is that, look, rejection, in the case of Janice, threats, abuse, it's just a normal part of human existence and a normal part of public engagement. Conflict is normal. Pain is normal. That will happen, hardship. Now, once you understand that, then you decide, who am I allying with? How do I choose the people that I work with? How do I decide whether to collaborate with this person or not to collaborate with this person? You take out the irrational prejudices that you may carry with you. And these mistakes are not partisan, they are generational. I see them in a lot of political actors in the opposition. I also see them a lot in the NRM, especially with the young and upcoming political actors who can't understand the difference between disagreement and betrayal, who think that failure for me to agree with you is disloyalty. And if you can't make those distinctions in public life, your choices will be very, 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 very bad. You will never know that you're busy sleeping with a wolf in a sheep's skin. You'll never know. And I see, because Muhindo was telling me, you're an NRM person. Yes, I've looked and I see some characters and I am thinking, my goodness. I'll just laugh. Let me just laugh. So but the point to make is that as a generation, the historical circumstances that led to the millennials and the Gen Zs are completely different. And unless you understand your historical circumstances, you cannot take the right political choices. And you may arrive at some of these things with unreasonable expectations and a lot of entitlement, only to find that you get what you negotiate, not what you're entitled to. And then by the time you go into negotiations, you have zero skills of negotiation. Having said all of that, I have a very specific question for the three of you. And you can take it in turns. It's the same question.
Sam is excited to answer. He'll be number one.
Okay.
No, because you've taken, they have lumped you together with us, and it happens.
All of you. So my question to you, each one of you, is how do you see us as a generation? And where do you think we failed you?
Thank you so much, Robert. I was actually, how do they say, I was loading my gun. Every time you would continue, I would take out the bullets. No, but I think I look at this generation differently. One, you had opportunity. When you came of age, you had opportunity. One, the structure adjustment programs were being rolled. Of course, some people were laid off, but there is a crop. You're almost my dad's age, so there is a crop of my parents like you who came of age on merit.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to mention. You joined Makerere University on merit.
Yeah.
It was the only public university. So you deserved to be there.
Yes.
Two, you studied with someone from Kasese, someone from Kulu, someone from Kapela Biong, which doesn't happen today. For example, my dad, a boy from the hills of Kilembe in Kasese, attended Busoga College, Mwiri. So he would take the railway from Kilembe and get off in Jinja. Now,
and he didn't know where he was going.
Of course, and he came alone. His dad didn't come with him.
No, what for? To take you where? You're not Janice.
Or Fiona, I'm in that group, please. It's true. I won't even pretend.
So what that gave you, one, most of you were the first generation of graduates out of your families, or even people actually to get educated. It means you went and found out that, like, you opened your way. But also what that gave you is because the elites in business on my end, on the political mobilization side, which is important, is the elites in business were your peers. So when you needed money for political activity, it was not a Muhindo holding Wavamono.
No.
No. So it means even when you were raising money for mobilization, there was a kind of a peer-to-peer interaction or there was someone between you and whoever that could help you and make your situation better, get to whoever, get financing for mobilization, then go and do the work. Now, out of that privilege, you now want us to fight our way to the table without giving mentorship, which is, to me, which is very important actually.
Okay.
Having enjoyed mentorship, one, by situation, conflict, everything, but also the privilege of access that you almost gained everything on merit. What was the prudent thing that Mr. Kausheng and my dad should have done today, or should have done 20 years ago before retiring? Should have said, do you know what, guys? We know the history of this nation. Our never gain in the constitution must only be etched in us holding hands of two generations forward, which is very important.
Right.
This could be business, this could be in the professional sector, this could be in the mobilization sector. And then you would not have the quality of individuals that now push public debate because you single-handedly played a role. You got your baton, gave it to someone else ahead of you, was 10 years younger than you, and told them, do you know what? It is you to determine the future of this nation. And they would know that you only give it forward. And that is how I look at the generation, really. But I'm also quick to mention, I am not entitled to that. I expect this out of the courtesy that, you know what, guys, we all have one Uganda to look to, which is very important in my view.
Okay. I said the question is for the three of you.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Fiona, I want to go first. Okay, it's cool.
Okay. I mean, I'll go, no problem. First of all, like a lot of the things that Sam has said are pretty much the things that we discuss, even in my, in our peer group, because Sam and I are pretty much the same age. So what he's saying is precisely what was on my mind, that it's not that we were ever like entitled to these things, but I do think there was a gap with mentorship. I remember, and this is, I don't know, I'm usually, like even at the beginning of the conversation, I'm usually trying to, I see how things mirror each other. I think that's what I'm always speaking on. So even in our personal, like in our families, those of us who are millennials, the way we grew up, there's a way that, generally, again, I know there's a whole, not everybody, yes, not everybody, but generally, you'd find that, I don't know, fathers were a little bit more distant. Generally, most of us grew up closer to our mothers than our fathers.
Yeah.
And so it was more like, and with our mothers, it was more domestic than anything else, right? Especially if you're a girl. So there's a way in which the way we were raised, I don't know, there's a comfort in which we were raised that softened us, and like it separated us quite a bit from things like politics. I can tell you honestly, those were not things that we were sat down and talked to. Like, I envy when I hear you talking about how you had these deep discussions about politics, about the country, the nation. Those were not things we were doing, and we were like, I don't know, like middle class, I guess, or whatever, but we were not having those, it was just like a soft, just go to school, just pass, just like, just do things and get an office and just be there, you get. So I can honestly say, even for myself, when we were starting the new breed, you guys might remember one of the things I kept saying is like, it was really important to me that we get people to start like enjoying talking about these things, because we didn't grow up enjoying them. They were just like some jazz that's there and it's far. It's like as if it's far away from you, like it's detached. And so I think that's where the gap was. That's where maybe your generation may have failed us, in that in our raising, there was like a decentering of things that were political, things that were, actually the things that Janice is doing at her age. I don't know what her generation is looking like. I don't have children myself. I don't know what her generation is looking like, but we weren't doing that. We were just, as long as you're going to school, yeah, like it's all good. So I think there's
Bringing good
definitely
grades.
Yes, that was the gist. Are you passing? We are moving. And so probably, I think for most of us, our first introduction to politics and civic engagement in some format was in like guild politics. And that's if you were in it actively. A lot of us were just chilling voters, voting by emotions. Who is my friend? Who is, And so, yeah, I do think that it has made for a lot of our generation being like very removed from things of politics. I can even see, even with my own peers, their responses to programs like this. It's like I couldn't keep my attention. It couldn't keep my attention for more than a short time. Or man, it's just too. I hear that over and over again, not from one, two people, many.
Okay.
So I think that's where the gap was, and I mean, I love that we are trying to close it.
Yeah.
Janice.
It's not that too deep. What will happen if I don't participate?
What do you mean if you don't participate? This Uganda is for all of us.
Janice.
It was very interesting to hear what Mr. Muhindo defines as privilege, because I guess the way I've grown up being told that you are privileged beyond what you'd ever understand.
Yeah.
I guess this is something Mr. Kaushenka was hinted on, the fact that we get what we want, or our parents are always there to shield us from anything. And I think for me, that's how I was thinking about privilege. So Mr. Muhindo gave it a different perspective. Particularly, how do I see the generation above? To me, we feel like you guys are gatekeepers for various reasons. I think it slides into what Mr. Muhindo was saying, because I'm currently getting into the actual career setting, and I'm into governance and international relations, international law. And oh my God, to get an internship in an institution that you really feel passionate about, someone legit told me, I'm sorry, but you need to have you are qualified, but you need to be able to contact person ABCD who's high up in the ladder to put in a word for you. Other than that, you'll not be able to get that internship. And I think that has been a very interesting experience for me. That's why, in contrast to Fiona, I can't just focus on getting grades anymore. I have to do more to make me stand out. I think that frustrates so many young people who are passionate about things like business or like politics. I think that also like explains why so many young people who are into the resistance and the NRM are so they fear challenging, and that's why that whole thing of disagreement being defined as betrayal comes in. Because now to get to, for example, grow in a political career, you have to join a certain group of people and then kiss them. I don't know if this will be censored, or like show them.
Well, it's already out.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good.
And love on them and ensure that you never disagree with them, so that they give you the opportunity to go where you want to go. It has suppressed autonomy entirely. It has suppressed how, I think this is something people always ask me.
Agency, I think, is what you guys call it.
Yeah. And so something I'm always being asked is that, Janice, the things you're saying, don't you feel they're going to affect your career as you grow older? The fact that having a free mind and being able to express your own thoughts and ideas without necessarily offending but objectively challenging might potentially cost you an opportunity. I think that's how I see the older generation. The fact that you have to be paper perfect in order for you or to have certain types of access to people who are 40 years plus older than you in order to get into the spaces you want to go into. It is so frustrating, and so help me God.
Okay, so first, I'm going to look into the future, then I'll come back with what I think should be our winding up question. I'm dictating that question. But first,
gatekeepers.
No, so I want to look into the future and say that we're going to call you again, Janice, because what the three of us are trying to do is to construct this type of forum for these kinds of conversations on a more consistent and regular basis.
Mhm.
So I am putting in our CVs right now to you, Madam, to accept to be a part of that process. So we're requesting you to think about it. May your stubbornness work in our favor and not.
And the people said amen.
Yes. But what I wanted to us to wind out on is, and I'll start with where I was 30 years ago, because 30 years ago, this time, there was so much hope because the Constitution had just been promulgated. And we were not, it was in the sense, it was the end of an era and supposed to be the beginning of a whole new dispensation. And so I remember us preparing to go into the 1996 election. And I cannot explain to you the sense of hope, the euphoria of what our country was going to become by the mere act of the process that had brought this constitution, the debates that had taken place in CA. The quality was so high, the disagreement, the various positions. So someone like me at that point, sitting down and looking, I'm in my late 20s at that point, and I am saying, my God, I have a real chance of becoming a member of parliament. We're all going to be this, we're going to be that, we're going to be, it looked all the, remember, I don't know if I can explain to you that as a teenager, 18-year-old, the relief in 1986 to be able to walk around Kampala at night without worrying that anybody was going to harass you was like, wow. I'd never been to a nightclub. Night. The keyword is nightclub. Now, from there, things begin to change and you see an actual recovery. And even if there was a civil war raging in the north, you still felt that there was a forward movement. So you sort of had this dream and you saw hope and you're like, yeah, things are moving in this direction. So, and at your age, I just want to ask you genuinely 2 questions. And by the way, we saw that in the quality of the political leaders at that time. And I am sure some might have an inkling of this. The quality of political actors in what was then called the National Resistance Council. Then the Constituent Assembly and the 6th Parliament have had the highest quality of political actors in terms of intellectual ability, knowledge of the subjects, delivery. This was legislation and political discourse on a high. So we were the pride. I mean, countries like Kenya and Tanzania couldn't talk. Our neighbors, they had nothing to tell us. And then, 2 years later, Mobutu was being kicked out. South Africa had become free. I mean, all of this stuff was happening. And so we thought, man, in like 10 years, Middle East has nothing on us. Now, I ask you this question. Seeing what you're seeing now, what do you see? And how do you see those who are either in office or aspiring to enter office, especially the young ones that were hosted? What do you see? Because that is what will determine how you respond to what comes out. Let me start with you, Sam. What do you see in the political actors, and what do you see in the future? Fiona, and then we'll finish with Janice. And
a bit of me felt you'd start with Fiona. But
Okay.
anyway.
Okay, with Fiona, I'll add one more thing. I mean,
Yes.
we've had these conversations with the new breed of young political leaders. Some came, they talked, others dodged, others simply didn't have the courage to turn up. Some needed to be arm twisted. With all of that, what do you see?
Wow. Thank you, Robert. What do I see?
Hmm.
There is hope
Okay,
when I find a Janice.
fine.
And to me, that is very important.
Yeah.
When I find, so since I was behind the scenes of the new breed until today.
Even though she's in exile in TikTok.
Yes, yes, yes. Since I was behind the scenes, I will use Janice's example. I've used Janice's example, but there is a one Marion Chirabo.
Yeah.
Marion Chirabo's story is amazing. She's also one that is one to look out for. 10 years is enough to know what she will turn out to be. But one thing I'm sure, if God grants her life, she was one we will be proud to have hosted on the new breed. Marion does not come from Buganda, to be precise. She comes from very far away in the Rwenzoris.
Yeah.
And she feels for her to represent Uganda, she can aspire from Makere to become a Lord Chancellor. She was a guild minister and has faced the wrath of what Uganda can give while you're at Makere. But she still keeps dreaming that this Uganda can get better. Then there is a Moses Kidega, who you would naturally expect to get bitter after having lost in the internal structures of the NRM and maybe go somewhere else or run as an independent, who chooses to stick in there and chooses to fight from inside. Whatever those two bring is at least one thing we are certain of, is that they are young Ugandans who still care about the future of this station. To me, that is very important. But I am also aware to the realities we should not hide away from. That maybe Kidega, Marion, Fiona, Janice, and myself may have gone through private education institutions all our lives. That our first interactions with government institutions could have been at Makere. Actually, my case is even worse, that I went through a private situation all through till university. And at graduate studies, when I begin realizing that, Uganda needs reforming because I'm now at Makere. because and and my fear, however, is even when we are aspiring of a Uganda that we are seeing in the future, is this Uganda representative of the different pockets that Janice, myself, Kaushenga, Kenijisha, and Muhindo can still share the same dreams and aspirations of a young man who is coming from Nakapiripirit that wants to go back and run or vie for MP or even vie for LOC5 to reform the country starting from that side. Because to me, that is important. Otherwise, we might have very bright, amazing people at the center, yet the different holes that hold the heart, poles that hold the heart, have molted in the ground and are breaking down. So to me, that is important. And that is what we must continuously think about, because it will then determine what the Kaushengas of this world bequeath to us. Otherwise, they'll begin saying, we gave you a country, and you look at what you've turned it into. It has gone to the dogs.
We will be gone anyway, so. Yeah. Okay. Janice.
I'm definitely hopeful. I can never give up, unfortunately, on Uganda, because the more I get exposed to the world, is the more I want what I see outside to be what I get to come back to at home. The joke we're always making is that, for example, if you have taken a flight out of Uganda and you see all those other cool airports, then you come back to entire airport, there's this feeling you get like, and I want not to have that feeling.
Yes, gosh.
Fiona.
I'm very, very much hopeful. And I see what I see for my country is our potential to be better. And I think what I aspire is that young people get invested more, and I think that's why I do what I do. Because I know people who are very brilliant in tech, very brilliant in fighting climate change, and they're struggling to make sure that these initiatives grow because of the way the monopoly within the system, that is our civil societies or the governments or even the market in general. So I will never lose hope. Mine is just that. And I see the capacity for us to actually thrive and grow if we get as invested as Mr. Kaushenga's generation was. I really want us to get to that place.
Fiona.
Well, I will start as Sam did. I have hope when I see the Dr. Nalukwagos. You know, when I see a leader like her, I have hope. One of the things I held quite tightly to that she talked about was when she was explaining why she decided to run for local government, and you know how she appreciated that was a place for her to learn and grow before she could, you know, go even further. And I thought that was it's a simple thing, but I thought she was very wise. And she's not the only leader who expressed a similar sentiment, and it gave me hope. I thought, well, there are plenty actually of brilliant young people that love this country and want to do something good in the spaces that they want to occupy. What I am often concerned about is the environment in which they have to do so. You know, how unenabling, I don't know if that is the correct, how unenabling these environments are, whether it's how much it costs to run for office or any other million reasons. But ultimately, I have hope, and I am even more hopeful because of this program. For me, it represents so many things, and you know, one of those things being just making it again. Like I'll say again, Robert. Like me, I really envy when you talk about how you guys used to talk about these things. Like it was just commonplace. Like that's what you talked about, you know, and that's not a thing. It's not a culture that we have in us. And it excites me to see people like Janice and think about, you know, like we can find our version of that. Maybe it will look different, but we can find our version of that. Maybe it's online like this. And I think that is a very hopeful thing for me. Yeah.
And I'll tell you where that hope lies. It lies in the interesting paradox that was the conversation between, I think he's Jacob Eyeru, and when we hosted Jacob Eyeru and Louis Rubongwea. That setup was very interesting because, first of all, primarily you saw two people on the opposite spectrum who had ability to work together, who could actually look for common ground. So that's important, that although we may be on the opposite spectrums, we can look for common ground. And I think that engagement between Eyeru on one side and Rubongwea on another side brought that out so openly. You didn't have the normal polarization that has become characteristic of public discourse and policy. But here is the thing that I think many people missed, that Eyeru was speaking for NRM and Rubongwea was speaking for NUP. Traditionally, it's been the other way around, that the position has taken an ethnic line. You would never find somebody from the West speaking for the opposition in the manner in which it is now, and somebody from the East passionately speaking for government, and both of them agreeing to disagree, but maintaining a courteousness or a courtesy that was admirable. So I think those things for me give me hope that there are the building blocks of prudence and even being practical, because you're going to need, your generation is going to need practicality and being prudent. This, you see, I like to say to guys, there's a difference between activism and politics. The two are completely different worlds.
How so?
Yes, there is. Politics, you must learn to hold your nose long enough to get to an agreement. Activism tends to be purist. That's what I do when I'm drinking coffee. I don't compromise on coffee. But I can sit with someone drinking alcohol as long as we can have a good conversation. So those are some of the things. But like I said, for me, the hope is shown in that. The even greater hope is that me and Fiona will continue to do this in some manner or form in 2026. And hopefully we can contribute to enhancing these kinds of conversations and making sure that you can tune in and listen to what people like Janice, people like Sam, people like Narukwago, people like Chiravo, Eyeru, Ochaya, what they have to say. And maybe that way we can project the voices of the people who will be running this country in the not too distant future, when some of us are now unable to walk unassisted up the stairs. And so thank you very much, everyone who's been with us on the New Breed this year. I am particularly grateful to Fiona Kemi, who's greatly enhanced my social standing. So now, seriously, no. Kemi, I'm very serious. My following on Instagram has grown by leaps and bounds because of you. I suspect that Janice is going to have a catalytic effect. Today I'm using big words. Catalytic effect.
Westernization.
Boom! On my TikTok standing, and Sam has grown my legitimacy once again from what has been to a guy who is back. Sam, through you, we want to thank the guys at CAS, and particularly Ben. The other guy, I forget his name. The guys were quite good. And Anna, we're very, very grateful for enabling us to have these conversations and taking them to audiences that would never have known or would never have been exposed to the views of these people. And those beginnings need to be built on, and we shall build on them going forward. We are like Janice, we're not losing hope. We're not giving up on these conversations. We're going to be stubborn. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening from us in Kampala. Bye.
Right.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.